Hey everybody, Freeman here. It is Thursday, it's September 21st. I was just making supper and I wanted to make this video. I think I want to talk about fear a little bit today. And I think I feel like I had a bit of an epiphany on fear. And it's something that I'm really acutely aware of, or I have been for a long time. So for the last probably decade, in 2008, I lost a business due to some really bad partnership issues. And that was after putting 2 years of my entire soul into that business. And when things happened, fell apart, it was December 21st of 2008, they really rocked me to my core, that whole situation. And I never really recovered from that point. So I was really a different person ever since. And I would say definitely a lot more fearful person. And before that, I would take risk and it didn't bother me. And I think what really hit me was when it all fell apart, just how many things ended up impacting so many people around me and the people I loved. Especially family, but friends included as well. But mostly my immediate family. So then I struggled for the next number of years. And today, before today, the last couple of years have been really hard in terms of just coming to terms with a lot of different things in my life. The separation from my ex, kids growing up, what I want to do for work, financial difficulties, different estrangements in various kind of family groups, the gender stuff has been in there. Just a lot of different things that really have put me into this cocoon. And I felt like I burst out of the cocoon a few weeks ago, and I think in a big way I did. There's a big part of me that did. And then it was really interesting because it was a few days after that, I believe it was Dory, put out a video and talked about how we're kind of always in cocoons and we're always coming out of cocoons because there's all these old stories that we're coming through in our life. So that was kind of that. And then I've still been kind of in this fearful and ultimately procrastinative type of state for when it comes to work and stuff. And I've been looking for jobs. I've applied to a number of jobs, electrical jobs, but there's hundreds and hundreds of applicants for these jobs. And I've been really struggling with, there's been a few business opportunities on board, available to me that I'm about to get started, and there's always I'm about to, but I just couldn't. So today, I know it's another day that these things have been bothering me, and I was talking with my ex, and she's asking me kind of how things are going, and I was asking her how things were going on her end, and my son also struggles from these anxiety issues as well, and I think just fear to really take any steps. So what I ended up doing is I sat down and I did a really amazing Kalego with myself, and I videoed it, and I'm just going to keep it private for myself for right now. Maybe I'll share it one day. And it was from 9 months from now, and I was talking about today, obviously, that it was in the past, and kind of how I felt, and as that process unfolded, as I was Kalegoing, what ended up coming out, it was about a 25-minute video that I did for myself, and probably about halfway through it, this issue of fear started really kind of coming out, and what was kind of going on with it. So one of the big takeaways that I got from that exercise was to start using fear as my guiding stone. So in some ways I've been using fear as my guiding stone in a negative way, in a way that stops me or freezes me, right? But to start actually using fear, and that's how I Kailego did, right? Is that, there became this point where I just started using fear as my guiding stone, and every time I felt fear, that's where I went for. And that's how I feel right now. So I feel like that's going to be my key moving forward, and we'll see what happens. But I feel really good about it, and it's just something I want to share with everybody. Is like, for you, like, how do you get moving? How do you look at fear? Do you kind of look at it in that same way? Does it something that stops you in life? Is it something that, or can it be for you, like what I'm hoping it's going to be for me is like, is it going to be like that guiding stone, that's something that you're going to just like shoot towards, and as soon as you feel it, it's like, oh, that's where I need to be. I need to be at that place because that's where the fear is. And the whole goal is to face the fear and to immerse yourself. And I watched this really good TED talk earlier about she's a psychologist, I can't remember her name, and she talked about fear, and she was talking about CBT, like cognitive based therapy, and how her son had anxiety, like some really crippling anxieties, even at like 10 years old, like afraid of bees, and even afraid of like splinters and different things. And it was so bad to the point that he wouldn't go outside. And what she talked about was kind of 3 key tools that you could use, or that are effective in battling anxiety. And the first one was to externalize it. So when you have a fear about something, just to say it out loud, just be like, oh, I'm afraid of the dark, I'm afraid of going into that dark room, or I'm afraid of taking this step because, I'm afraid that, this is going to happen, whatever it is, to externalize it, to like take the power away from it. And then she said the second thing was like to correct that language, kind of correct the mistakes of that language, to take the power out of it. So some of the things that happen is that we overstate, or we're overestimating what the fear is, like what it is we're afraid of, or we're catastrophizing it, or we're like underestimating our ability to cope. So she's like, kind of correct those patterns too. And then the last one was just actually have exposure. And she said you can do exposure in 2 ways. You can either throw yourself into the pool and see if you can swim, or you can just take the small steps. And either way, it doesn't matter. Both of them accomplish the same thing. It's just whatever is going to work better for you, and how quick you want to be able to do it too, right? And then just and realizing your realistic ability to cope, moving through that process. So I thought it was really interesting. We'll see. I guess in some ways a little bit preliminary on saying how much this has impacted me right now, because we'll see what my results are, and we'll let those kind of speak in the next steps here. But I would say right now feels pretty good. Yeah, I think it just kind of gives me a bit of a tool and a bit of a focus to hone in on, instead of having everything be so busy and noisy. And it's like, oh, I could try this and this and this, and maybe it's fear, or maybe it's anxiety, or maybe it's this, or oh, I just need to love myself. And you know, sometimes we can get really bogged down with different tools. So I find most of my leaps in life have always, at the time that the leap happened, always came down to like I just committed to like 1 or 2 tools, and I think that's where I'm at right now, is committing to 2 tools. One of them is give myself self-love, like as much as possible in every moment of the day, and then number 2 is to consciously look for those areas that I'm fearful in and actually just attack them, right? Just go right into them and use those as my guidepost for my next steps. So anyway, thought I would share this, thought I'd make this video, and hopefully it helps the rest of you, and we'll see what happens. Love you all. Bye. Supper time.